Chairman. So I'd like to present you our approach done by my colleagues Petr Fantík and our students, which helped us with implementation of those procedures and testing them. Actually, I will try to start from the end. So in our fracture analysis, or determination of fracture parameters from tests, we usually need quite accurate description of the stress field, which can be seen here as the finite element representation of the stress field for the wave splitting test. And because of the nonlinear zone in such a messy material, as has been said, as concrete, the nonlinear zone is very large, so we have to know the stress distribution quite accurately up to very large distance from the crack tip. So for that we use Williams solution, and when we use that multi-parameter description, when we use this power expansion, and we use that, we need several terms of that series. We can use several higher order terms, but how to determine those terms? And based on the number of those terms and then the way how these terms have been calculated, we can observe the description of the stress field, which is quite accurate, just up to a distant value. And it is not really dependent on the number of the terms, because you can see that you can use higher or lower number of the terms, and the fit is not or the dependence on the number of instances here usually. So why do we need? Actually, of course, we use just the truncated version of that infinite series. So up to just the distant certain number of terms in the series. So why do we need the description? The description quite nicely expressed in that handmade picture done by my colleague in that mandala. So we are dealing with a concrete material with very large process zone, and we can distinguish two entities within that fracture propagation. We can see propagating crack and also the very large process zone, and that and the proportion of those two entities somehow describes the way of or the type of fracture. So when we take into account brittle fracture, we usually don't speak about any large process zone because of small scale building condition. And on the other hand, when we speak about let's say fiber concrete composites, we usually see very large process zone, and only limited value of the energy dissipated during the fracture can be assigned to crack propagation. More is assigned to the propagation or to some mechanisms that appear as to be plasticity. So within our field, we usually have to deal with also already mentioned effect of size, or other colleagues, they say about some, or they are talking about some geometry or boundary effect on the fracture parameters determined from the test. You can see the examples, for example, the arc curve behavior, or the fracture toughness, or the fracture energy. The values of those parameters, they depend very strongly on the size or geometry of the test samples. So, how to deal with these effects? We think that we can adopt theory which would say that we have to separate energies being dissipated in those two entities, like the fracture processor or the nonlinear zone, and for the crack propagation, which is somehow sketched on this slide. So the portion which is dissipated for the crack propagation is somehow linked to the fracture mechanic approach and the classical one, and that energy is dissipated within the volume of the process zone should be somehow specified by the parameters of that zone. So for that we adopted our approach, within which the multi-parameter fracture mechanics plays a very important role, and I will focus in this speech on the multi-parameter description of the stress field in order to be able to somehow estimate the size of the process zone, which is somehow sketched here in this slide. So in our left free-for-all procedure, we typically we are trying to estimate the size and shape of the fracture process zone during the whole the process of fracture propagation of those cementitious, mainly cementitious materials. So, as I said, I will focus just on the crack tip description and the estimation of those coefficient of those high order terms of Williams series, which is shown here. Actually, so we have to somehow fit or based on fitting of numerical results, we have to estimate values of coefficients of higher order terms of that series. How are we doing that? We are using regression technique, which is referred in the literature as over-deterministic method. It's just a linear least square regression for which usually we use coordinates and then displacement in certain percentage points of the model, for which we, using the least square technique, we are able to calculate the vector A of the coefficient of high order terms. However, how to perform this technique? So usually the procedures using fundamental code with some ring around the crack tip from which those parameters or those inputs into the over-deterministic method is taken. However, we have done some analysis which show that the way of our results, or our results depends strongly on quite strongly on the way how the rank from which we take these results as inputs to the over-deterministic method is constructed. So it depends on the length from the or distance from the crack tip and from the way how those points are selected. So we try to test it. Moreover, we have to perform that for several geometries. So it's quite time consuming. So therefore, application has been programmed in Java for facilitating this analysis. One was that the over-deterministic method was implemented to be able to use that very routinely, in a routine way. This is the ODMAP application, and then that second application which reconstructs the stress field from using the Williams series. This is the FRPO method. So, so we performed a numerical study. We used this splitting test, but it can be run on arbitrary geometry, and we used ANSYS, in which we perform very dense mesh, and there was a technique implemented in the post-processor of ANSYS, which enabled to specify the way how the nodes are selected from the model, from which the results have been used as inputs into over-deterministic method. So we considered some sections of 90 degrees from that model. It's just a symmetrical part of the model, and so it was an angular selection. And for the distance selection, we used, for example, constant distribution or quadratic or exponential. That it means we took nodes from the distance from the gravity according to these functions, and we somehow try to then determine coefficients of terms of the higher order terms of the Williams series, which we then used for the backward reconstruction of the stress field, and we compared the let's say accurate accurate solution, which is this finite element solution, with that reconstruction using Williams series. So and for that we used several number of terms of the Williams series determined from selections from different selections. And those selections are described here using those sections, angular sections, 90 degrees, turning about 10 degrees, then those 90, 45, 90, 80, and the whole half space. With the constant, quadratic, or exponential distribution of those nodes from the practice. And you can see that the results can depend quite strongly on that selection of those nodes which we used for the fit of the truncated Williams series. As you can see that for first two terms there are almost no differences, of course, because the description is actually just in very let's say small region near the truncated. But when we are using higher number of the terms, then we can see that the stress field depends quite strongly on the selection of the nodes. This is for sigma 1, first principal stress, and this is for the opening stress. Here the first two terms not shown because the differences are very low. But here you can see that how the selection of the nodes from the finite element model, which are used as inputs for the fit of the component of the coefficients. Can be affected, how the selection affects the results. So, for example, for the selection rather forward from the corrective, which is the first row, or back, which is the third row, they are not stable when we use the large number of those units. So to conclude, we somehow developed two applications which can be used for such an analysis, enabling us to somehow deal with that phenomenon in classical materials, dealing with very large nonlinear zone. Thank you for your attention.